Welcome back to another episode of the Next Level Minds podcast. My name is Chris Chapman, and I am your host. And if this is your first time tuning in, then this is a podcast dedicated to those who want to reach a next level in their faith, family, fitness, finances, and just embrace the American freedoms that we have in this amazing country. The way in which we help do that is by interviewing entrepreneurs and founders really on how they built their business and got from point A to point B and overcame various setbacks along the way. We also produce solo episodes where I talk through personal development related topics, anything from goal settings to habit to finances to anything under the sun, personal development related. And we also have a newsletter, the Next Level Minds newsletter, and the link to subscribe to that will be in the show notes below. Otherwise, we also have a big mission here at Next Level Minds, and that is to impact over 1 million people. So if you have not done this already, please take the time to subscribe to Next Level Minds on Apple Podcast. Share this episode with a family member, friend, or colleague who you think will get some value out of it. And if you're really feeling special, leave a review on Next Level Minds on the Apple Podcast app, and really just let me know what you think. Let me know what value you're getting out of it, and let me know how it has personally impacted you, and honestly, anything that I could change as well. But I want to go ahead and dive into today's episode. I have the opportunity to sit down with Richie Breaux. Richie is an entrepreneur who started a construction company in 2012 with a massive leap of faith, where he basically just had a beat up truck and a dream, and him and his wife said, you know what, let's start this company. Since then, they've been recognized as one of the fastest growing construction companies in the U.S., recently making the Inc. 5000 list, and they've done some multi-million-dollar projects. He also has an awesome book out there called Builder of All Things, and he has his own podcast as well called Builder of All Things. We're going to dive into a lot of great content. I know Richie's success is really centered in faith and his walk with the Lord, so we're going to dive into how Jesus is at the center of his success, the center of his business, and ultimately how he shaped his life to where it is today. And then we're also going to dive into some entrepreneurial stories and then go through how he overcame some setbacks and adversities. So if you're curious about business and if you're curious about how faith kind of intertwines in business, this episode is definitely for you. So let's go ahead and hear what Richie has to say. Richie, thanks so much, man, for hopping on the show.
Woo! No, Chris Chapman in the house. No, I love it, man. I love what you're doing. Next level. Let's go.
Dude, I should have just called you Bro at the start. You got the coolest last name.
Yeah. We were chatting offline, man, and you said it. I was branded early. It was. I became cool before they even knew who I was, man. They're like, "Oh, bro, like, what's up, bro?" And yeah, it was kind of easy to kick off in high school and those kind of things.
Yeah, man, I like it. But man, I know we're like halfway through summer as we're recording this. It's kind of crazy. So assume everything's going well in Hawaii, being it's summertime.
Woo! Hawaii is paradise, man. I love it. I've been here 25 years, born and raised, Peoria, Illinois, south of Chicago, Midwest boy. Definitely thankful for those years. But, being out here, just so many things. It's not what, you think from the mainland. When I say that, man, growing up in the Midwest anyway, I used to see Hawaii as like something you won from the Wheel of Fortune, right? Like you get a vacation trip and it's kind of like the dreamland out in the Pacific. But not living here for 25 years, man, just the culture, the lifestyle, the care and stewardship of the land, the people, all the multicultures out here. It's just the blend of all of it together, the faith. It's a perfect fit for myself, and it's really there's a lot of depth in the islands versus just like a vacation spot. So, speaking from being married to a local Hawaiian, having Hawaiian kids and grandkids now, it's man, it's just a blessing, bro. Being out here in one of the most beautiful places of the planet, and just thankful every day.
Yeah, man. That's so your kids grew up there too. It sounds like, or.
Yeah, born and raised.
Man, that's awesome.
Decision me and my wife made. She did live in Illinois with me for 1 year after I did my military.
She's like, nope, get me out of here.
Yeah, she didn't last too long. But we both agreed, man, that the kids being raised out here was just a no-brainer compared to the mainland and how I was raised. And not saying that it's bad being raised. Everyone's parented different by God Himself. But I was just agreed that if we had that opportunity, why not? You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Well, I know you kind of alluded to the background a little bit. But when you first reached out to me, and I get reached out to, I mean, like probably 10 times a week. So some of them I just glanced through.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, doing it for 5, 6 years now. Thankfully, I don't have to reach out as much to guests. So huge blessing there. But that said, since I get so many, I like really scan through it kind of quickly. And you like really caught my eye because you were talking about some traumatic experiences you went through during childhood. And I was like, whoa. And then I kept reading your bio. I was like, whoa. And then leap of faith and all this stuff. I was like, all right, we got to get this dude on the show. So I'd love if you could kind of touch on your background a little bit and how that shaped you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, my mother and father, they were a waiter and a manager of a small restaurant. So, I mean, they didn't have any, financial background or anything like that, man. So we were just kind of a family kicked off. I'm the oldest of four and just kicked off just surviving, I guess, in Peoria, which is second city of Illinois, but it's a poverty urban city as well, man. So there's just challenges within that arena alone. But then at 3 years old, we had a house fire, lost a house that they were renting. I can't imagine as parents going through it, but I lost my life on the way to the hospital from smoke inhalation. Brother had 3rd-degree burns. He was 9 months old. 3 years old, I can vividly remember the whole walking through the fire in the bedroom, being locked in the bedroom, the smoke, and trying to open up the door and burnt my hand on the knob because it was just so hot from the heat. And in the 80s, man, this was 1983, so curtains and carpet and all those things were made out of high level poisonous chemicals that just inflamed the whole room. And so very traumatic. I think since then I've dealt with anxiety of, death and had to deal with that at certain levels through military and just had some trauma in those areas. But, through that experience, man, I had what you call an NDE, near-death experience where I had a literal out-of-body spiritual experience where I got to see Jesus and his like glory, let's call it. He's like a light figure, but had multiple people. And I feel like, he said, not yet, not yet, Richie. I got some plans for you and going to keep you here, And so woke up on the way to the hospital. My grandma, was there and just kind of shouted, I seen Jesus, and just had this emotional thing that happened. But since then, man, I just didn't really know who he was, and just kind of went through life just normal. But I had this imprint of, him on me, I think, in one way or another. And I always shared him, but I just knew that of that experience, And so going into high school, my 8th grade year, my family, trying to get back on our feet from that fire, it was rough. And we got my 2 brothers, my little sister, and we went on our first family vacation. This was 1993. And we drove from Peoria, Illinois to Utah. And when we arrived, we got a call, that our house burned down. It was house number 2.
Wow.
Thankfully, none of us were in there. Nobody in the neighbors, anybody got hurt, but 2 little kids, God bless their hearts, still to this day probably think about this, but they were 8 years old and playing on the porch. We weren't home and just set ablaze, and thankfully they didn't get hurt, but there was a gas container for the lawnmower on the front porch, and it just blew a hole through the house and just smoked the whole home, melted a lot of things. And so that was just a crazy experience. I remember we came back from the vacation. We just had nothing. I had just whatever's in my backpack of clothes. I had a couple Adidas sweater and, sweats, just, being in sports and stuff. But just everything was gone. And just seeing my mother and father both, clench and cry and kind of try to figure it out. Like, well, okay, what's next? Like house fire number 2. And, going into high school, that was the summer going into high school. I was just barely homeless, had a lot of the city respond, give us clothes and a place to stay. And it was in the newspaper news. And just remember having that feeling in high school, like, man, just set apart already, from the beginning, just not having anything, same clothes for weeks, because the stuff that they did give didn't fit me. I was 6'2", 200 pounds. And so I just felt like set apart already, like, oh, I'm the poor kid with the house fire, and everybody knows it was on the news. So just kind of kept to myself and quiet and just riding it out, my first year. But thank God I excelled at sports really quickly and made connections. My sophomore year, I became the starting quarterback, and did play 1 year college football, nothing beyond that. But I believe God was positioning me and preparing me for what was to come and setting me up in a position of understanding how to lead teams and certain things. So I believe, like, looking back, here we are, I'm 45 years old, man, just looking back, like, God allows storms in our life, and a lot of them suck. They're horrible, while you're going through it. But when you survive it and you look back, that God's preparing something big. And it's how we handle those moments and how we grow in those moments. The rubber band always stretches, but it never breaks, and so we constantly are getting stretched, but we're growing in the process if we allow it. And that's, when I look back, I'm thankful for all of it. As much as crazy as it sounds, it's like I've learned a lot through those processes.
Yeah, man. And that's a lot, because I'm sure you guys got that call on vacation. You're like, again, right? Especially after the first vacation, and, who knows how long, right? Or you said that was the first one that you guys did, right?
Yeah, the first vacation, man, never could afford it.
Yeah.
Wasn't like plane ride. We all jumped in a van, my dad's van, and we was like, man, we're going on a road trip to Utah to see his side of the family first time. And yeah, get that news was crazy, man.
And that's a Midwest thing to drive everywhere, I feel like.
It is. We're in the center, man. So you just drive.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, to your point, like, God works in a great way like that. I think for those that have faith, it's like, when trouble happens, you can just lean on him more and, trust that that's part of a bigger plan. And like you said, you may hate the storm at the time, but you come out better on the other side. You come out with some lessons, and you realize it's probably part of a bigger plan. I feel like, based on what you told me, like, you might not be where you are today if maybe those didn't happen, because it wouldn't have propelled you into different directions and all that,
Yeah, truth be told, man. It's it's interesting, like, through life now, and I look back, it's like, I don't know how I would have survived. My family would have survived without, tying everything in to a faith component of hope through God.
Yeah.
And so that's really been a foundational point. It was how my parents responded more than anything. Like, I'm in eighth grade, I'm 13, getting ready to go to high school, pivotal point in my life. And now looking at this storm and looking at my mother and father, I'm like, how are they going to respond to this? And I'm watching and I'm kind of absorbing, and to see them cry, I mean, that was expected. They're hugging, but then they both kind of had this little talk, and they walked up to me, I'm the oldest, and said, look, we have a 2-week vacation. We're going to ride it out. We're going to not act like nothing happened, but we came here for this, to see the family. We're not just going to panic and run. We're just going to ride this out. We're going to enjoy the time here, and then we're going to face it when we go back, and we're going to trust God with the rest. And then they both just had a strong spirit from there. And that really showed me a lot, right? It showed me, okay, I'm not to run from adversity, but, like, have some faith in the process. And so without that, without God, without the hope, I don't know, like, how some people go through things, and those journeys must be rough, because even though it's a rough journey for us and we're going through it, we have this rope of hope. And I just imagine, like, you're in this, like, I don't know, anything, mud or a hole, and you have a rope that you can pull yourself out. It's just going to be hard because it's against gravity and certain things, but you have something to hold on to. And so that's what it was for us, and that's what I learned and what I seen coming from them.
Yeah, and especially, like, I feel like people put their identity in, like, their financial success or the house that they have, car that they have, right? And, like, that's a prime example of, those things are temporary. And, let's say that you had all your identity in your house and then it burned down. It's like, well, where's your identity now, right? But, like, God is not going to burn down,
Oh, man, you nailed it. Success is, like, one of the greatest words to really, like, unpack the definition, man, for especially business owners and entrepreneurs. Like, what is success to everybody at the end of the day? And, being able to define that's very important, because it could, detour really where you should be going and your purpose and calling and why you are good at what you're doing. God has, built each of us from the womb, prepared us through these storms. It's all for these purposes and callings for a greater will and greater picture. And success, if not defined properly, man, we could be going down a lane doesn't have a pretty ending like we want it to, right? So
Yeah. How do you, I guess, kind of cultivate the self-awareness to find what success means to you? Because I ask that because I feel like a lot of people are trying to figure that out themselves. So what's
True.
kind of the best way to do it, you know?
Yeah, for me, man, like, I spent a lot of time in scripture, in the word.
Mm.
And why I bring that up and it's so important is because I had this. So this is kind of a foundation to that question and answer. But, seeing Jesus when I was 3 gave me this almost this tangible hope, right? And then, but growing up, I realized my conversations and talking to people, they don't have that tangible hope like I have. And so, when I got older and started reading, the scriptures and stuff, I realized like Jesus is marveled by people that have faith without that tangibility. Like
Mm.
there's like, you're like set apart to this like place where he looks at you and says, "You guys are amazing." Like Richie, he's cool. I showed him myself and he has faith, but I showed myself to thousands of people 2,000 years ago and they put me on a cross. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
seeing him is not really the answer to have faith is. And so, just thinking of, that component to start with, success, man, like when I'm reading the scriptures are our tangibility nowadays.
Yep.
Like people are like, oh, what, I want to see him. I want to hear from him. But, that's why he left the word. That's our tangible thing now is the word and hearing his heart, character, and voice through it. So saying that to say that when I go read stories like Joseph in particular, man, this dude had so much favor and success coming from, his father telling him check on his brothers kind of jealous, threw him in a pit. Then he rises up in a caravan, gets taken to, Egypt, and then gets put in Potiphar's house, is like, basically stewarding his whole mansion. And then, has to deal with, his wife trying to, hit on him. And then
Yeah.
he's like, nah, I ain't doing that, but then gets put in jail, but then comes out of jail, interprets a dream, gets put second of command of all Egypt. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
straight favor coming from a pit. And so I looked and I studied those scriptures, like how did he have so much success and favor? And it said, when you go look, it said God was with him,
Mm.
say that again, God was with him. And it said wherever he went, God blessed him and favored him because God was with him. And so when you look at what is success, to me is, and it's why I wrote a book, Chris, is the builder of all things. Like we build things, but he builds all things, right? He
Yeah.
needs to be with us in that journey, or you're not walking in success because you're developing what you're doing out of your own strength. It's never success. It's success only if you're building it with him.
Mm.
And so that's how I define it. So what that means is it's not about where I'm going, it's about who I'm with. That's what's successful. And it's that simple. It's not where I'm going, but who I'm with. And
Yeah.
that's how I define it, because the end of the stream or the river is dependent on my captain, the builder of all things. I'm just making sure he's on it with me in the journey. But now if you don't have him, you're more concerned at the end or what's in the process at the end. You're looking at those as success milestones. We need to steward the boat on the stream, but not be concerned as the destination being the success point. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that's awesome. Cause then you have him like, aligning the direction and guidance for your life. And you're kind of acting in alignment with with the plans that he has, you know?
And it's hard to like. I've talked to the guys and say here and there. It's hard to say like, well, that's easy. That's just faith, But it's not about easy or hard. It's about a decision to have a relationship with him through the process. Like you have a wife. Like let's just use a wife as an example, right? Like I'm running a business. I have a wife. Now I'm making all these decisions, but a lot of them I should be running it through her because we have a life outside of the business, so they align. It's the same thing with the builder of all things. It's like, you kind of walk through all your processes in prayer and meditation, filter them through scripture, get some counseling, and just kind of continue that process of having them walk with you through that process of building a business, making decisions. Like we just had this, I'll give you a practical one. We just had this, project come in, good, close to 1.3 million, sent over the bid. A homeowner said, hey, kind of a little high. I got some other bids, what's so not. So I did my diligence, and I worked really hard, sent it. That's the price. And so I prayed, man, after, and just spent some time with God, meditating, listening to some music, and say, God, like, do you feel like, where do I go with that number? Like, do I work to bring it down, or do I, like, do I leave it and have faith? Like, where do I balance those two things? And I felt literally led to just look at it again. And this number just kind of populated at 5% less. So I did the numbers like 60K. I was like, okay, can I get 60K savings? So I brushed through everything again on that leading, and then boom, I found 60K. Now, out of integrity, I felt led to be honest about that, right? And so I could say, let me wait and see if I earn that 60K, or do I be honest with this and send it over? So I prayed about all this and walking through with them. So I sent over an email and said, look, after a week of running through the numbers, I think I can save 60K. This is how, and just want to be competitive with other bids and look forward to hearing from you. Did I get it yet? No, but that was my process and thinking of walking through that and what that looks like, and that's success to me. To me, I was successful in that moment, trusting in that leading versus me just trying to figure it out on my own. That's the separator for me. So today, through all that, I was successful. That was success. And then
that's super cool.
Yeah, and the reward is to see what happens. That's like the reward and the return. And so that's it's always exciting for me when I do go through that process, because when it comes back and everything worked out, it's kind of like God tells this little story, like I was with you, and I just love those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like you just have that fulfillment that you're acting in alignment with his overall plan for your life, whether it's a plan that he has for you to act on this week or a long-term plan for the life. So that's super cool, man. I want to go back a little bit. So you played a little bit of football, and then was it U.S. Navy right after that, or what was that like?
Yeah, I played a year of football, joined the Navy immediately that summer, and it was crazy, man. I got in because the uniforms looked good. I was going to pay for college, travel the world, all the the perks sounded cool as a 19-year-old. So signed up, and then that was 1999 or 2000, and then 2001, man, 9/11 happened.
Dang!
I didn't expect war, bro.
Another thing on fire in your life, dude.
Oh
Like,
man,
you can't
it's
escape it.
crazy. Like but I learned a lot about. When I say learn, it was like looking back. It's taught me how to channel and articulate my faith to people, because I never want to dress my faith up like the recruiters dressed up military for me, right? And try to get you to sign up to this faith thing. Hey, you trust God, you're going to be successful and get money and all. I don't want to like dress up my faith. I just want to tell you, hey, it is a war. There are how to battle adversity through it. God does allow things, but he also gives us things to get through, certain circumstances. Because God is like, man, if I were to break it down, man, not to make this a church sermon, but God is like, he's a holy God, and he has promises and words that he's declared. And because he is who he is, he doesn't go back on those words. And so we have to operate through those, so it's kind of like a business owner or a boss giving you tasks with protocols and processes. You have to operate at the best you can in excellence and efficiencies within those, boundaries. And that's how God works. So people are like, why don't God just come do this? Because he has like 17 promises he has to fulfill, that he can't just kind of just move how he wants. His word goes, it's true. And so all that to say, man, that, going through the military, it was rough, man. But I learned that I never want to communicate my faith like I got into the military, man. I would want to tell you, hey, there's ways to get through this and with God. But yeah, war, man, I've been there. I've been in Persian Gulf, gone through the Straits of Hormuz, which is the canal that goes into the Persian Gulf, where I think the United Emirates and the other side of the canal are fighting. And we have to go darken ship, just like you see in a movie, man, not making noise. And just trying to sneak in, and it was crazy, man.
Dude, well, first off, thank you for your service.
Man.
Like I said, one of the core values of the show is America, right? And anytime I have a veteran on, like, obviously want to take the time to thank for the service. So,
I appreciate that. I learned a lot, man. I enjoyed the camaraderie of the shipmates. I loved being I call it disciplined, because I don't think I was as disciplined until I went to boot camp in the military. I was just kind of like, I don't know, it's just not wild, but I needed the structure.
Yep.
But the administration, man, I worked in the office, on the ship, and so I learned a lot about administration, which helped in the business overall. And that was like my day job. My combat job was I literally was the guy who stood next to the captain on the ship, had headphones on like I do now. And when we were in war, he would communicate to central zone on the ship to, like, if we were to get hit in defense or what to do, into operations. I was literally the guy who would take the information and send it. Like he would he would tell me, even the helicopter. So it was like a three-way communication thing. Anything he said, I would do it. And just, there were times like, during the Freedom Iraqi War, we had an Iraqi, ship come, and, we had to kind of man up, go against each other. And just watching his coolness and how to handle it, and just soothes, you across the board, knowing like, hey, he's got it under control. He understands who we are and how to operate fast, and actually calm the situation really fast. Went over there and basically just let him know who we are and what we'll do and what he can't do. And this is kind of where we stand. And what we can do, though, is go over there, just apprehend your ship, come over here, let's have some coffee and talk. And that was it. But, you're also dealing with some people that were suicidal, from that end. So you never know, but he handled it real well, and just communicating those things, and just really like taught me a lot and positioned me today, of understanding on how, as a business owner, I can partner with the captain himself, builder of all things, and how, same thing I was sharing is like standing next to the captain. I'm just stewarding his resources at the end of the day, and using whatever whatever I've learned, and just try to position myself more as a steward versus an owner. We all want to claim business owner and do these things, but if we really think about it, man, we're using somebody else's resources to do these things, and just thinking like, okay, I want to steward these, the best I can, has been my approach, and what I've birthed out of being in the Navy.
Man, that's such a good point about like being a good steward. I've been thinking about that from a financial lens, not necessarily in the lens of like tithing, but more in the lens of like, I feel like it's honoring God by being good with your money, right? Mm. Because like the money you have, it's not yours, right? Like God gave you the ability, the skill sets, the fortitude, all that stuff to actually go earn it, right? And I feel like it's honestly like a kind of a disgrace to God if you're just like living way above your means, all that stuff. So like I've been kind of thinking about that of like, hey, like making this money, let's be good stewards of it, and obviously set myself up financially, but also like give back to others, impact, things like that.
Well, yeah, you nailed it. I try to redefine this word overflow. A lot of times I hear it in the Christian space. I think it's misused with, self kind of blessing kind of deal and overflow. So the way I like to describe it, man, it's like God is the source. Let's just use water, or I use my cup, and he could pour in your cup, and what happens when it gets to the top of the brim is it overflows, right? Mm. And so God, if I know God and the character of God, he's not going to waste resources, Overflow is the point. Is not he's not saying I'm gonna fill you up, fill your cup. It's about overflow, which means grabbing a second cup, putting it next to it, and allowing it to flow into somebody else. And so what that means to me is like that when you are like, grace is free, but favor isn't. Mm-hmm. And it is almost conditional. It's like he entrusts people through the scriptures and see how far they can get. Joseph, for example, he had to go through a lot of like trust tears, to get to where he was like, okay, you're given second command, because he understood that he needed to be positioned to steward the whole land for a famine coming. So his positioning was intentional, and he needed somebody he can trust, right? And so favor and overflow is earned over time based on, steward the little things, man. And if you take care of those little things, you'll give more, more, and more. And that's how God operates. And even in business, and money is a great one. I asked these dudes, man, we're at a job site. And if anybody doesn't know, I own and operate a residential construction company here on the islands of Hawaii. And had these two flooring guys. I love just walking the job site, talking to the guys, just, chopping it up. And so I had these two guys and they were just talking about, man, if I had this, I had that. And here I come, Mr. Two Fires. I don't really, care about like
Yeah.
having things, right? And so I'm not saying this, just it's wrong to have things. And that's where I'm hoping I'm going to go with this. But I was like, hey, if I were to give each of you $1 million today, like, what would you do with it? And then they was just like thinking, and I was just like, you missed your opportunity. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? I was just like, look, I said, this is how the builder of all things work. Like, start planning for the million and what you're going to do with it. And then he will give it. Like, I have 10, 15, $20 million plans in my head.
Yeah.
I've gone through them and I know what I want to do with them. And I trust if that's what he wants to use and the vision he's giving me, he's going to give me the resources and money. Like, don't worry about, like, we're so concerned with the resources versus the one who gives the resources. And that's like the whole point of my book, Chris, is like, come up with the vision, the plan, the idea, what it will do, for the world in need. Because that's what businesses are, right? We're feeding people with a need. Eventually, like whatever it's a service or a product, there's something missing that people need or want, or something that just makes life easier. And God will, provide the resources and all the connections and the people, but it's our job to steward whatever we have in front of us. So, I just shared with them, man, like, if you really want $1 million, like, think about what you do with it. Like, what would you really do with it? If you're just trying to spend it, man, it ain't coming. And if it is coming, it wasn't from God. And that's where a lot of people get, I see NBA players and all these guys, like, they get millions too fast, and they yeah, you can get $1 million, but you're going to get into a heap of trouble, man, because you don't understand the process of stewarding, investing, what comes with it. And then, yeah, your basketball career is over, knee injury, and then what, And so, I see that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. From what I just got from you, it sounds like you need to be like equipped to receive the gifts that God wants to give you, whether that's equipped mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. And I'm just thinking about my life. Like, obviously I still have a long way to go, right? But like, if I were given the things I've worked my butt off for the last like 8 years, if I were given that at like 21, 22, like, I probably wouldn't have any of it anymore, right? But like, because I went through the grind, like especially the first 2 years in sales when I wasn't making much, and then started making a lot more like the last 3, 4, 5 years, I knew what it was like to budget on a very small salary. So now I have like the discipline to budget my money on a much larger salary. But I'm like thankful for those times, because I'm like, if I was being able to budget on an entry level sales salary, I can easily do it on making a lot more than that. So, but like, if I were given
absolutely.
like what I had now from a salary standpoint, with none of that background of how to like actually budget, I'd be like dishing out money left and right, not even thinking about it,
Yeah, and there's like levels of who you're serving and what you're doing, because I've met some high end business people, man, 9 figures easy, and having conversations with them, see how they operate. They do try to make not necessarily comfort for the sense of pleasure, but getting themselves to a place to operate at the highest level they can possible, right? And so that means spending a lot of money on food and your environment and a house, and so it makes sense, right? Like, I see people spend some high, you would think, hey, well, you don't need all that, but hey, what he's doing, yes, he does. Like,
True.
it's it just depends on your circumstance. So each circumstance, we need to have that grace to know each person's different. Like me, I'll give a good example for myself. I started with a green beat up truck, man, when we started, 2 guys, and we're, growing, doubling every year, fastest growing company in the country, 2021, Inc. 5000, top 50 construction companies. And, still, got this truck that,
While you got those awards, you were still in the green truck.
Well, I upgraded trucks, but what happened is I ended up getting a Tesla, and then I started getting some kind of side eyes from the guys, like, "Oh, are you, like, you're getting the luxury stuff?" But I had to, like, I kind of took it personal. Like, look, it's not about the Tesla, man. At the timing when I got it, it was more about efficiency and
Yeah.
thinking about things like economically. Like, these trucks nowadays, man, they're 70, 100 grand.
Yeah.
Like, in this Tesla Model 3, this thing is like 35K when I bought it, you know, and I
Right.
got solar at home and I'm driving all around the island. And I was like, dude, it just makes the most sense. And
Yep.
plus the clientele I'm trying to reach, I want them to see that I'm thinking like this, right? Like when I'm driving up to their homes, I want them to see, hey, he doesn't have, number one, a beat up truck. He knows how to steward his money to afford something that's going to work.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, you know, yeah, a truck makes sense, builder guy, but if he's an owner of a large scale company, why is he driving the truck? He's
Mm.
driving a car and he's doing it. So there's everything makes, it's got to make sense, right? And if you start growing, obviously you got to buy bigger facilities. You got to get more fleet cars. You got to get better tools to do a better product operating in excellence. And so your clothes got to look better, man. So it was a lot of growing and for me stretching. It never was about the things, but understanding the positioning of where you're at. And if it makes sense, it makes sense, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Man, that's a super good point there. And I think just like having the mindset to step into that person. And so like going back real quick, because I want to talk about the early days of your company. 2012 you started it, but like what were you doing up until that? I know you were in the Navy, but was it like Navy and then boom right into company or what?
Well, no, Navy. And then I started getting into construction. Just was at church. Guys like, you're a big dude. You want to come help on one of the job sites? I was like, yeah, I would love that. You know, I need
Yeah.
more work. So I started doing that for about a year and man, I fell in love with it, Chris. I was like, I didn't even know this world existed. I was more in like sports and then of course the Navy, but just this whole trades world, I was like, man, this is me, you know, coming out of football and stuff. So, you know, I just enjoyed that. And then when we moved to Hawaii, I got into an apprenticeship program, went to school for 4 years. I remember my first day on a job site, I saw this like guy your age, man, just leading around like 50-year-olds, telling them what to do and read the plans. I was like, man, how are you the boss, man? And he was like, and he was like, I went to school, like an apprenticeship, and that kind of blew my mind because at the time, man, I didn't realize there was vocational schools. You know, I was just ignorant
Yeah.
to all that. And so I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I joined an apprenticeship program, worked full time, went to school full time, 4 years, got my journeyman license, and just worked with an incredible company here on the island doing high end level stuff. And 2008 happened, and we lost a lot of work on the island, and the company ended up laying me off. And before you knew it, man, I was just doing work, side jobs, and some things led to another. And me and my wife Tiffany just, through that experience and stuff, we just prayed about it and saw some needs on the island in the residential market, and just prayed, and God gave us confirmation. We just jumped in, man. 2012, company called All Things New, bringing something new to the house.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like you're just automatic differentiator with having your values rooted in faith. Because I don't know, I feel like there's some schemy home builders out there.
No, you nailed it, man.
So
Just being somebody with integrity, showing up and
yeah,
doing hard work and being friendly. Like, yeah, we were killing it on Yelp reviews just
yeah,
by being ourselves, and that it just multiplied fast, man. It was a ripple effect. It was the island, and from there, just yeah, it was fun.
yeah. Like I've seen some crazy videos from some of these like publicly traded national builders of the completed builds, and like, dude, they're horrible, especially post COVID. Like people showing
Mhm.
stuff breaking and like mold, and I'm like, that's just no integrity right there, right? It's like I've never seen your work, right? But like I feel like I can just tell from the way you're talking that like you guys take a lot of pride in it, and you wouldn't cut corners just to make an extra 1% profit margin or anything like that. So
Oh, and it's yeah, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's
I'm sure you've seen some of these videos I'm referencing. You're just
oh
like
yeah, yeah. I
lighting the
have fun,
world.
man. I was
Like,
thinking about doing a podcast just on like talking about those
yes,
videos because they're
like,
actually entertaining to watch, in the sense I feel bad for who it's happening to, but they're definitely entertaining. I have a good time watching those TikToks and different videos. But yeah, Hawaii is it's growing, man, in excellence. Excellence is like at the forefront of everything we do, man. And so what that means, it means a lot of things, but it means like good enough is not good enough. You can't say it's good enough, and that was like one of those things we live by. It's like, oh man, this is good. No, man, like let's recalk it. Let's, do these kind of things, and just creating that culture that it's okay to redo it, became very valuable for all of us across the board. And it takes leaders, to make them believe that, we're striving to be the best. And I used to say it before we actually were. And when I say we are now, because, we got these little accolades and stuff, and getting, those jobs that we've always strived to get, but it's something you had to speak into existence. I used to tell the guys again, I'm like, look, one day people are going to come up to you and be like, hey, I follow you guys on Instagram. You guys got amazing work, when they see their shirts and stuff. And then I remember the day one of my guys said, man, I remember you used to say this, man. I got that. like we're like Instagram famous. And so I used to just speak it into existence. To be the best, you gotta think like this. You gotta dress like this. Your van has to look like this. You gotta park like this. You gotta talk like this. Your tools gotta be like this. When the job site, I know you're working, but have a awareness of keeping it semi-clean, or like organized chaos during the day, and at the end, always leave a little something that says you cleaned, like a little folded rag, or just
something,
nicely staged, something just to show that you took that extra effort. It goes 1,000 miles. And so in order to be the best, you have to think like that, right? And present yourself like that, keeping your shirts buttoned. We're all using, there's just so many different factors. There's this one thing, even at our office, when anybody comes to the door, we all stand and greet them. You don't have to walk over or anything like that, but everybody stands, and just, we always have music on in the office, very light, not overriding anybody's work, but when you come in, you get a vibe, like at every level, man. Like even little forms we put together, how we line that up on a document, and how fast we respond to people, not too fast, but not long enough, and just finding that perfect balance when to deliver the appetizer, right? Everything we're doing. So we have conversations about every element, and we don't let anything go. And I've had people come and tell me, man, it's like we're constantly climbing a mountain. It's like you never actually arrive is kind of the vibe you get. It's like as soon as you arrive, okay, what's next? But what we try to do is celebrate our wins along the way as much as possible, so you don't get, whiplash or burnout, but just constantly pushing to be the best. And with that attitude, and when you start growing into that after year after year after year, you're just naturally like operating at a different level. And that's what it takes in construction as a tradesman, man. You just got to constantly work to be the best you can be, and it'll translate into the work. And I think, and any business owner, any company, any leader out there is just basically speaking that into your culture early, right? Getting everybody, and you have to be consistent. You can't like talk all the game, and then here you are, the leader, and they're watching you, and you're not, being consistent with these things. I had to show, through example a lot, at the beginning days, to build trust, and hey, this is the vision, and this is what he truly believes in. And in tradesman world, people watch, it is like, I'm not sure every company and every culture, but I'm pretty sure there's a consistency of that. Employees do watch their managers. They do watch the owners. They do watch the leads. Anything you buy, like anything you eat, how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, they watch. And so I think as leaders, we always have to be intentional on all those aspects on what we're trying to communicate to our team.
Yeah, dude, I love all of that. And if y'all are listening, definitely go back and listen to the last like 3 minutes. Main themes I got from that is, set the standard, and honor that standard, and just be the example to everyone around you. You never know who's watching. And that's how I think the world just continues to get better. I talk a lot about that on Instagram. It's like, let's say I go outside and do an outdoor run. Well, maybe my neighbor sees me do that, and he's like, man, like maybe I should be out there also working out. I haven't worked out in a couple of days, and it's like setting the example. And then, maybe he starts getting more into his fitness, and then we're using fitness as an example because it's easy, but and then maybe the guy next to him is like, oh, Joe's been working out more. Maybe I should do that. And then next thing you know, the whole street is like physically fit, right? Same with like business and everything else. And I love what you said too. Like, you got to be the best at everything. Like, I firmly believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything, especially when no one's watching. Like, I cut my grass the other day. I was like, like there's a spot in the back. Like, no one's going to see it, whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I restarted the lawnmower. I'm like, dude, I can't be slacking like that, because if I slack on that, I'm going to slack on this, and then I'm going to slack on this, and it's going to be a trickle down negative effect.
Yep, it is. And it's hard work, man. If I were like to throw anything out to our generation, this generation, is that we got AI, we got ChatGPT, we got tons of thought leaders, podcasts. We're just saturated with a lot of different ways, methods, and theories and ideas, right? Which is good. It's good to go through, filter it, see when I say filter, it's like literally pour it all in a cup, filter, see what comes through best for you and see what connects, because each person, each journey is different. I do believe that. But I say that, man, to say that this is the generation that needs to go do it. So like we have way too much information, and we can get caught overthinking, we can get caught over planning, we can get caught, just drowning in so much information that we never go actually do. Like, my encouragement to everyone listening, man, is like, if you got a thought to be a pool cleaning company, you can sit on ChatGPT and come up with amazing ideas, listen to some coaching, listen to all the stuff, but you got to go out there and just start knocking on doors and cleaning pools, and then allow the information to basically filter through you while you're working. It's like eating steak, man. You could sit there. So what information is, it's like eating just tons of steak, good steak, meaty steak, and you're just, man, you eat too much, man. You're going to be just like, on overload. But what we're supposed to do is cut it up enough to where you can actually chew it and enjoy the flavor to see what you're getting out of it, swallow it, digest it, work it off, and then come return to the steak tomorrow. And so like live off that with the information is like I did that with the, trying to, learn more about God. Don't sit there, and some of these sermons, they're just so strong, so good, but just too much sometimes. We don't get to live these things out. And every Sunday to me is like, it's good, but it's a lot of information. You don't get enough time to live it out, right? Yeah. So sometimes the stuff takes 3 months. One good message takes 3 months to work out and really digest what that looks like and what it works like. So pool company, man, just go out there, start cleaning pools, realize what homeowners say, what they don't say, what they like, what they don't like, and start realizing what tools you got to buy. This guy said you should get these 7 things. You say this, but you realize you only need 3. Take note. I mean, it's like, do is my encouragement, like just, you got to go out there and just do. And, pick one out of those 10 business ideas you have and just go rock it, man. Or if you're in a business right now and you're trying to figure out what I should do with this thing, come up with 10 options, man, and just start narrowing it down to one, but then just go do it, go fix it, go start it, go, and that's going to be the separator that's coming, Chris. I think if I were to throw out something prophetic, is like, there's going to be so much information and people that don't look at the information too, that there's going to be this huge gap separator between the ones that actually utilize the information and go do it, and the ones that get stuck just kind of behind. And there's no middle ground. Kind of what we've been experiencing out here in Hawaii for years is just this separation of the rich and the poor. There's no middleman, right? And that's what's going to happen with entrepreneurs and businesses that are using using them and doing the things with the tools they have and the other ones. And it's just going to, like, really fast, just shoo, like, it's gonna be hard to catch up because we're so like advanced now of just doing stuff. So that's my encouragement to anyone listening, man, is just right now, just be active, break a sweat, go out there and do it. Because it's you gotta put in the work, man. Just go do it now. Like, I wouldn't do any more planning, man. Just go do, because things are moving too fast with AI.
Dude, that's so cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do believe that's happening, because, I mean, there's like 30,000 podcasts out there. And, it's like so many people are just like, oh, let me just listen to one more podcast about this business and then I'll go do it. And they're like, maybe like one more course, and then they never do it. But I heard this on a podcast, speaking of podcasts the other day, and they were talking about how, like, what you need to do. And basically what you just said is like, learn, then go. Make mistakes, learn, then go. Learn, then go, like that kind of framework, just like you said about the steak. And too many people are like, learn, don't go, learn, don't go,
No, you nailed it, man. I think I've created 10 businesses in the past 4 months on ChatGPT. Not like literally, sorry, just like thought process, right? Yes. I got an idea, I just unpack it on ChatGPT, start resourcing, getting some information, outsourcing, looking, but I'm doing all these things with my business running at the same time, right? And so, and then when I see something where it's time to dive in the water, I'm like, boom, okay, I take one of those ideas and I just start running with it. Let's see, while I got this other one going. And then while I'm doing those, I'm thinking, so it's just, you got to just go do, man. You got it.
Yeah. Dude, well, speaking of doing, I know you just wrote an awesome book, Builder of All Things. I believe it launched June 24th. You shared with me some
Woo!
accolades before about, hot new release on Amazon. So yeah, dude, like, first off, what's your book about? And then where can people go find it?
Man, I think this podcast really dived in a bit of what it's about. But Builder
Yeah.
of All Things is just my journey in the past 12 years of learning, aligning my business with him as the owner, and I'm the steward. Really just, giving you a perspective shift in business, understanding that most business owners are trying to look for success like being in an ocean, out there swimming, trying to conquer land. But I'm in a stream, man. Stream means the destination's already determined. And so I'm just going through the process and the journey and with God, like what I share. So that's really what the book's about. And battling adversity and having him with you through that. I break out these three parts called the storm, snake, and smoke. And I believe a lot of times we call our adversities like, man, I'm going through a storm, Chris. Like, but a storm is what it is. It's something that's out of our control. And there's a way to, respond to that kind of adversity. But I put two more pillars in there, which is the snake, when people are actually against your character, integrity, or sabotage against your business or competitors. And then the smoke is where it's self-inflicted adversity, right? And so there's a way to respond to all three. And I break those things out spiritually and applicably in the book. So business owners have some leadership tools and spiritual tools to position yourself as somebody who's owning and stewarding God's resources.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Is that kind of like what made you want to write that? Because I feel like it's a unique book.
A lot of people, when we started getting, magazine covers and awards, subcontractors, other colleagues, like, man, how'd you guys do it? Do it so quick. I didn't even know who you guys were. And all of a sudden you're like, we know who you are now on the island and nationally. You guys just, did Zach LaVine, Chicago Bulls home in Orange County, highest sold home in Orange County, 2023, 34 million. I think our renovation was around 5 million with him, but they're just like, man, like, how do you do all this? Like, how did that happen? And so, it's easy to say, oh man, I was with God, God, but it's like, it was just too surface, right? And so I was like, man, I really want to put a book together to just go really deep of what it means to like work with God, through as a business owner, and just looked at my 12 years experiences, sharing like true events, very vulnerable book, ups and downs, and just sharing how I was walking with him through those processes and how I actually like what that means to me. So it's like my lens, man, of, walking with him. And so it's part memoir, part, leadership tools. And that's where it birthed from.
Cool, dude. Well, I'll 100% throw that in the show notes.
Cool,
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people are like, all right, now where can I get that book? Speaking of that, where can people connect with you and your company if they want to build a $40 million, up that one a little bit in Hawaii?
I like the one between the 1 to 10 million, if you're watching, and one to $10 million home. I don't want to do something beyond that anymore, but, RichieBreaux.com, Breaux, pretty much anything from my books to, speaking, anything to do with me, man. And just trying to serve outside of the business, but the business itself, atnluxury.com. You can find everything on there as far as the construction stuff.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, dude, appreciate you hopping on. This is an awesome conversation. I got a lot of value out of it. I know my listeners did as well. So, dude, thank you so much for this.
Oh, no, thank you, Chris. I've been excited for this for a couple of weeks, man. So appreciate the opportunity.
Well, that's it, everyone. Thanks again for taking the time to tune into this week's episode of Next Level Minds. Be sure to share this episode with a family member, friend, or colleague. Also, connect with Richie if you want to hear more about his company, his podcast, or his amazing book that just came out earlier in June called Builder of All Things. Otherwise, I hope everybody has an absolutely fantastic week ahead. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen.